Hi everyone.
Hello.
So we played a game. We played
Yeah,
we played
we
a
played
mini
the game.
game. What
At least two.
why were we playing? What's our angle?
What was the pitch? We were recommending each other things we thought the other person had given up on, would hate, or should give a second chance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe not will hate. Like, there's nothing deliberately malicious, but just stuff that we might have given up on or deserved a second chance as far as we were concerned.
So you might be used to normal review shows where we'll play a new game or an old game and give feedback on it as if it's the God's given word. But we thought we'd take another approach. We're just gonna play some games that each of us haven't really played before, but the other has. Recommend each other something for the month that actually came into play that was very realistic. We initially challenged each other to play a whole trilogy, and that went down the toilet pretty quickly.
Yeah. So it was Donkey Kong Country and Pikmin.
Yeah, so we took time to play these games that we vaguely played before and never had the chance to fully explore. Mike, why don't you tell us about your experience with Donkey Kong Country?
So yeah, Donkey Kong Country, I was getting frustrated by my own like incompetence at certain parts.
Yeah.
Uh, but aside from that, I did think it was a reasonably quite fun and balanced thing. So
Mm-hmm.
like both the games we chose, I think, were almost like tech demos for their respective consoles. Because this is like Rare showing off for the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
And so, like, even if you go back to it now, and I'm pretty sure some people might say some of the models are ugly or just a bit weird. Like, do you remember DK's weird breasts coming into play at some point? Just because they're
His
like
weird breasts.
weirdly rotund whenever his pecs are facing the whenever his pecs are facing the camera.
Oh, banana.
But it had a lot of like the little touches that you just really that I really appreciated. So
Mm-hmm.
like with a lot of those old school 2D platformers like your Mega Man X's or this one, you get a hint at a larger world, even though you're just going on a stage by stage platformer basis.
Mm-hmm.
So like you actually get to go across the island, get closer to the center of the island as it gets more industrial. And there's even like really impressive transitions in the weather effects where you just be like walking along a branch and the time of day changes,
Yeah.
which is just wonderful.
And that is a
Um,
game from 1994. That's
mhm.
still blows my mind.
Yeah, it's just they packed a lot into that, and it's a decently challenging game. But at no point did I feel it was too unfair.
Yeah.
I think if anything annoyed me, it was that those developers clearly knew what levels people were going to struggle with because all those because when you showed me that all those minecart stages basically had a skip this entire level button hidden just to the left of the start of the level,
Yeah, yeah.
I was so pissed off with that because it's like, why did I go through this? Because I you did record a video of me taking God knows how many times going through that one minecart thing, only to die at the exact same part about
Mm-hmm.
30 or 40 times to the point where I just needed to be left on my own so I could get through it.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
That
you had it. It was just the timing of the last two, and I knew you would
yeah,
struggle at that bit because I always would struggle at that bit in the past.
but no,
But
it was just like yeah. But I think I was just looking at it as like it had a nice like difficulty curve and stuff as well.
mm-hmm.
So I think the only issue I had with like pacing and difficulty was this is it like World 4 or 5
Is it the
where
snow area?
it's a snow area,
It's the
and
snow area.
because every time before that it's been like 3 levels and then you get to a save point, and
Yes.
this becomes 6 levels. They introduce ice as an obstacle, which is a nightmare in most platformers.
Mm-hmm.
They make everything incredibly difficult to see with their fancy snowstorm effect.
Yes.
And just when you think you've got to a save point, there's another level, and another level, and another level. There's like a whole water themed maze thing. And usually those are quite chilled, but this one feels like it goes on forever.
Yeah. I think
But
like the biggest middle finger and was that the one ice level with the snow effect. They also gave you like the fastest animal buddy.
yeah, the ostrich.
Yeah, espresso. It's like what?
Like just the nice little touches of like it took me embarrassing to realize it, but like when you're going through the water maze and you come across the octopuses
Mm-hmm.
and they're all like little buzz saws.
Yeah,
So it's like a obstacle you're used to from other platformers, but it just fits in so much better with the
kind of.
aesthetics of the game.
Yeah, like the theming of the level and that.
So it actually feels like a journey. And then I've always liked Cranky Kong's personality
Mm-hmm.
is the original DK fed up with everything. Like I know that he takes a bigger role in some of the manuals, weirdly, of a lot of the Donkey Kong games Rare did.
He does.
Mainly
Yeah.
just talking about how shit this game is compared to what things were like back in the day,
Yeah.
which is a bold choice, I think, for a game you're trying to sell to people. And then it was interesting having like the characters actually play quite differently.
Yeah.
Well, not like amazingly differently, but having Donkey Kong's weight come into it versus Diddy, so you'd bounce off some enemies. I mean, it did make things slightly infuriating when you had one or the other,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you just bounce off something that you could have knocked over with Donkey.
Did you ever use his Donkey Kong's ground beating? Did you know you could
I,
do that?
I did not know I could do that. No,
If you hold down and I think press the run
he
button,
does
you like it does a ground pound.
like in Smash.
Yeah, yeah, that's where they got it from. I can't think of any time it would actually be useful.
No, well, like for the higher level stuff, once I knew there were secrets, it was quite good going back through the levels because all of that stuff's quite well telegraphed. I felt
Yeah,
like you've got to have the skill to like jump on the tire at the right time to actually land on something. But like there'll be a trail of bananas down a pit, so you'll actually know that this isn't dangerous. It's where the secret's hidden.
yeah, yeah,
So those were quite satisfying. But I mean, the actual mini games, like I've played a bit of the first world of two, so I know these challenges are a bit more thought through. But when you get shot up into the sky and your task is survive and you're just stomping on the same crocodile for like 10 times in a row as it gets slightly faster, it's just like, oh, you could have done a bit more with this.
which they did end up doing. But yeah,
Yeah,
it is really bizarre because I think I played the second game before the first,
yeah. So
and
that must have been weird.
it,
Because
it
like
was very jarring.
if you look, if I talk about the second game, just from what I've played of it, because that ends at the that starts where the last one ends, basically, doesn't
Yeah,
it? Yeah, because you're starting in the final boss area. But like, even the second one's a huge leap up, not just visually, but like level design wise,
yeah,
because all of a sudden there's a lot more verticality. So you're like going up in quite a lot of those early levels, where you're
hmm
climbing the mast of the ship and stuff. And they've just made this small part of the first game massive.
and that's what I really like about like the first and second game. They feel like they naturally flow into each other, and they're like a
Yeah,
progression
it
into
felt
the
like an
next.
actual sequel
Yeah,
and not just and even if there isn't much of a story, it even felt like that storyline wise, weirdly. Because it's like you recognize this place, you're starting from this place, go ahead. And you even get to see the remains of the levels you've gone through in the previous game.
yeah, and it's really weird because I feel like the first Donkey Kong Country, the secret levels are kind of inconsequential.
Hmm.
You'll like either find them or you won't.
Yeah.
And when you find them, it's like, oh, well, that's kind of underwhelming though. Like that was
Hmm.
complete accident that I'd managed to run into this wall with this barrel, and it revealed it. The second one, is so fun. Like we were saying, how like well telegraphed the areas are. You feel smart for finding the hidden levels in the second one,
Hmm.
and it feels really fun. Like you'll play over the same level again and again just to find the secrets because it comes off as so natural and so fun to find them.
Yeah, like I didn't really have that desire with the first one, I don't think,
No.
because a lot of it, like you said, was accidental. Or
Mm-hmm.
like it would involve having to fiddle about those tires a bit
There's
more
like
than I wanted to.
there's also like secrets within secrets.
Yeah, and there was never like the payoff.
Yeah,
So it's like extra bananas and that's it. It's like, okay, I could just not risk all the extra lives I might lose.
that's definitely where you get that kind of like them finding their footing kind of
Hmm.
vibe with it. Overall, personally, I thought it was a very solid platformer, especially for the year
Yeah,
that it came out and the kind of like tech it was using.
that would have been so easy to get buried under all the other mascot platformers at the time,
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, if you just look at the Switch Online catalog, for example, there's like 12 different caveman things, and there's even platformer based around a sentient jelly baby.
Yes, there is.
To
I
make a
forgot that was the thing, but yes, there
jelly
is.
boy.
Jelly Boy.
It's not just the license that made it stand out, potentially have really well put together series of platformers
Well, when you
with
think
that tech.
about
It's
it,
just
like Donkey Kong was kind of a
insane.
dead IP at that point, because they
Yeah, he
had
had
Donkey Kong
DK
3.
94 in the
Actually,
yeah, like
that's crazy to think that they came out the same year.
yeah, Donkey Kong 94 in the Game Boy, and then Donkey Kong Country with its.
Which is actually, I don't know if you've ever played Donkey Kong 94, but that is
No, I've been
everybody
really wanting to
had that
try
game. That was the game that sold Super Game Boys.
it.
Um, I remember going to a friend's house, and that's exactly how he had his set up, just like that they would show in GameStop, GameSpot
hmm
magazine. Was it GameSpot? But yeah, it was just like holy shit. It was like an area map too. I'm pretty sure, and you go level to level. It's fun. After like playing Donkey Kong Country 2, or like watching my brother play it, I just became like obsessed with monkeys. I already liked them before, but like it sold me on monkeys and apes and like these. And then like the first game, it's just like it doesn't pull any punches in terms of the overall mood that they're trying to give. You
Yeah.
start the game and you explode out of his treehouse right into the game, right into the music. It's like holy shit! Like there's not really much of an intro. It's just like you start the game, okay, on you go. Find
hmm
your banana horde and
Off you pop. Go die a bunch.
well, that's another thing. Like you can go in his treehouse and you can actually like go to the banana horde underneath his treehouse and see that it's empty. So they got like that visual storytelling.
And that's all
Um,
you need, because that's enough context to go on with the adventure. The
and,
monkey wants his bananas back.
and all the other Kong, well, except for Candy Kong, but all the other Kongs are great. Candy Kong is like horrific.
Yeah, just to look at.
She
And
literally looks like they took an ape and put her in a swimsuit and gave her a blonde wig. It's like ugh. They must have realized that because like by the time Donkey Kong 64 came out,
yeah, she's.
they made her sexy monkey lady.
It's like, I think we know what you're going for. It's like they finally had hired a furry on staff for 64.
Maybe that inspired Barry's redesign as well in Conqueror.
Conker's Bad Fur Day. That would make a lot of
It's,
sense. It's like, how hot can we make this squirrel?
they love their blonde chicks,
Yeah,
that's for sure. So there was a lot of confusing Do you think like Candy Kong inspired Tana
it's Crash
Bandicoot?
Bandicoot.
Yeah, and
I'm
then
too.
that like
Like,
it's just like constantly inspiring one thing to the other.
yeah, I want to see what Uncharted would have looked like had this war between Rare and Naughty Dog continued. You just got a big-breasted, instead of Nathan
Lemur.
Drake, yeah, big-breasted lemur with the most sensuous tail imaginable. You
Oh,
wouldn't even need
okay.
to change anything about those games, I don't think.
The music as well. The music's just
Yeah,
everybody's talked to death about them, but it is really that great. If for
mhm,
whatever reason you haven't played Donkey Kong Country, it's like the music is half of it
yeah,
easily.
it's so atmospheric.
And like it's one of these games where it never sounds out of place.
hmm
Even I don't think this was the case. It sounds like the music was made first, and then the levels were built around how the music
See,
felt.
I don't know how David Wise works compared to how like their other composer Grant Kirkhope works, but I know
Hmm.
that at least one of the tracks was just three different music tracks sort of smushed together.
Yeah,
So it actually has a nice build, especially in like the longer levels.
it's
And then the Jungle Japes themes kind of followed him everywhere since.
yes, but like even the water levels, like usually there's like that big trope and nobody liking the water levels in the game. I thought they were kind of
I
long,
thought
but at the same time they're
I
very like
never
zen
I
with the
hated the
music.
coming across them. Like I never hated the water levels. They were slow and
Hmm.
they could be a bit awkward sometimes, but they weren't like the hell that I'd have expected them to be.
It's weird because it's like that nice little you got the chill music and it's like
Yeah, I'd
you've gone
like
through all this and now you can chill a bit and just
yeah, I'd say they
cruise.
reminded me of like Echo the Dolphin, but if it wasn't made by a psychopath.
Was there anything you didn't like about
Like
Donkey
it's
Kong Country?
like I said, I think my irritations were, and this was probably on me, is like not knowing what half the moves were.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've only now found out about his ground slam. Like even if it was like context, like there was no context in which to use, it's still like something I'm irritated I missed.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the pacing was a bit off, but it was usually quite good.
Yeah.
It's just like the game's already spiking up in difficulty towards the end. It doesn't also need to be like a marathon where you're going through 6 levels before you get to a save point.
Yeah.
And in fact, I found the saving system quite weird because, well, like with Super Mario World and stuff on the same console, it was like you play 4 levels, you get to a castle, the game would save.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this one, it was like you'd be put to a new island, and then you'd have to play the game for a few levels till you could save it. But once you'd unlock the save point, you could always save it after the next level was done, as long as you could walk back to the save point.
Yeah.
So I think they changed that in 2, from what I've seen. You have to pay coins or
You have to
something,
pay coins to save. Yeah.
which is cruel, but I sort of see where they were coming from to like make it like a thing you can go back and forth because you're always constantly redoing the secrets and
Yeah.
playing alongside the thing. But that was a bit weird. And then I guess I was never that excited by the boss fights
I was wondering if this was gonna come up. Yeah. Because
because like
again,
I think
going
that's the
from 2 back to 1, that was like the biggest thing where it's like,
it's the only thing I haven't mentioned so far. I think what it is that with the exception of like the final boss, I think they're all reused at least once. So you're always
yes.
fighting them twice.
You got
One's just a
naughty and
battle,
then very naughty, and
then isn't one just a barrel that shoots out bees?
it's a barrel that drops enemies.
That's it. And it's just like, oh, okay. But yeah. And then I never found it fun. I just felt like I was going through the motions. You had like the pattern down to naughty or very naughty to an art where it's like you hit him once, then he'll jump like this once, and then he'll run about. You jump on him second time, he jumps like this way second time. So they were never that enjoyable to figure out in the moment.
Yeah.
And then I thought the final boss was pretty decent, but it goes on for so long
I think that's like
that
my general consensus with the boss fights. It's you've already, with the exception of the last one, because the last one's like your heart's racing because if you die, you know how long it's gonna be to get back to this point.
yeah.
But it's
So it's just like,
a
oh
lot of those boss fights just feel like a slog. It's like, okay, I know what I'm doing. Like, come on, die
yeah.
already.
So much of them just felt like I was memorizing stuff in order
Mm-hmm.
to win. So it wasn't really a boss fight. But then I'm not sure how many platformers I've played where I actually like the boss fights.
I quite like them in Donkey Kong Country too. So maybe
Yeah, I
they've
think
got
this
some
was.
fun ones in Donkey Kong Country 3 actually as well.
I think this is where we made our mistakes because like we recommended the first games in trilogies, where the first game was clearly just like a proof of concept.
Yeah.
I think I had the sense of things, a better time than you did with Donkey Kong Country.
Well, we had to start from the first one because I knew if I got you playing Donkey Kong Country 2, if you ever went back and played Donkey Kong Country 1, you'd have like the experience I have of like it just feels really
Oh,
weird
yeah,
and like disjointed, and at least if you start with the first game you can kind of see where it's gone
yeah, but it
to.
builds.
Yeah.
Like I said, it'd be like, oh, this has spoiled the ending of the first one. Not that there's much to spoil, but I think that it would have been really impressive if you were playing it when it came out, when you just
Mhm.
sort of the jungle becomes industrial or the snow levels, because or the Aztec temples and stuff, because there's like quite a lot of variation just on the jungle theme
Yeah.
before you even get into the caves. And I suppose that was another disappointing thing about the back half is that a lot of those levels are similar to earlier ones, just with a new mechanic that's introduced for that level, which is kind of a bit of a ball ache
Yeah, like
platform you have to get oil for.
I remember there's an underwater level that had like tire spikes in it
Mm.
and sharks. I agree. Like the snow level just causes the game to come to complete standstill.
I don't think it would even be that bad if they just like had the save point a bit earlier.
Yeah, when I would speed run the game, it was like that was the point where there's always like a point where I would shut off a game because I just couldn't be bothered playing it anymore. Um,
And that really sticks out.
yeah, that one was just like I don't like the oil, collecting the oil to keep the thing going, but at least it was interesting enough to make him want to keep playing. And the snow one's just kind of like, oh, I can't see what I'm doing because the camera isn't adjusting properly. But overall, would you recommend Donkey Kong Country?
Yeah, yeah, right. Like I think going into it, I was expecting it to be a tech demo
Yeah.
in the sense that it'd be like a one and done thing where there was nothing to go back to.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I think I would go back and replay it now and again, just because it is quite breezy to get through the first half of it when you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And like I've only glanced at it, so it's not been like the only game I have, like it would have been back in the day. But I can at least like use what I've learned later on to go back and get secrets.
Yeah.
And even if I don't find them rewarding, it's still fun to just dick about in those levels.
Yeah.
I think everybody else, all the other games have different characters that play quite a bit differently.
They do. Yeah.
So it's not like you're getting the same experience in each one that you might do in other trilogies. So I think it's been, yeah, definitely recommend it.
Because one thing I would add is the games are quite simple to pick up and play,
Mm-hmm.
and then when you actually pick up more on the mechanics, you kind of realize how much of a polished experience it actually is compared to other platformers at the time. Like I'd argue it's even I like those games better than the Mario games in terms of the fluidity of everything. Everything has a rhythm to it that you're
Mm-hmm.
doing, and that's why like for me those games are so fun to go through again or speedrun or because there's a rhythm to everything you can.
Yeah, there's like a fun uh, satisfaction to when you line up a barrel just right and you can bonk yourself a bunch of vultures
Yeah,
to just land perfectly in a palm tree somewhere.
and the vultures even like go in a scream in a rhythm as you hit them.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad you liked Donkey Kong Country. um
Yeah. So I gave you Pikmin.
yes you did.
I think my thinking was that well, you were thinking about GameCube stuff.
Hmm.
So this was like the tech showcase for what the GameCube could do. So I hadn't replayed it since about 20 years ago. So in
Yeah.
my head, it was like, this is a nice, short, chill, breezy game
Hmm.
that if you get into it, you can replay and speedrun.
Yeah.
But how did you find it?
Well, it's funny when like when you first mentioned tech demo feeling
Yeah,
because like I'd argue Donkey Kong Country feels like the first in the series,
yeah,
but it
but it
felt like they had a
doesn't.
plan.
Yeah, it feels like the first in the series, but it never really felt like a tech demo. It's like
Yeah, they had a
decent,
goal in mind. They had a vision. It's got
they
a
had a working
plot.
platformer.
They did. It had a plot. Pikmin was the weirdest game I've played in a long time. That's
Hmm.
like an official product because I finished it and it was like
What
it
is that? It?
it literally just felt like a coming soon was gonna
Yeah.
appear at the end of it. N- Nothing about it visually is polished.
Hmm.
Like for the characters it uses all seems to be just like the material colors that you can make.
Yeah,
Kind of like how they would a lot of the polygons and N64 games and that just using whatever surface material was available. Um it was weird. It was a really weird game and initially uh one of the reasons why I didn't really want to play it back in the day and when I attempted it again was it seemed like an RTS, which it kind of
hmm
is, and
yeah. Well, it's got the base building, I guess,
yeah,
aspect of it.
you got your time limit of the day and all that, and
Hmm.
your Pikmin or your resources. So there's a lot of management that comes into play there. Um,
And I think I don't know if you find this, but I think because I went back and replayed it just to make sure I wasn't having you on when
yeah,
you were
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
complaining to me about it, and I was like, oh, there's a lot of stuff in here that definitely should have been in here that only appears in the sequel because I tried seeing if there's a way of swapping the Pikmin colors without
Mm-hmm.
dismissing everybody.
Yeah.
So you had to use the whistle to bring them back because we'll probably have you moaning quite a lot about the final boss later. But the way you're supposed to do things with bombs and stuff is almost impossible with how
Mm-hmm.
finicky those
The
controls are in the
the
first game.
the bombs are an issue.
Yeah.
I might as well tackle them now. This is in no sequential order. This review show, folks. But the bombs are a ball ache.
Yeah.
Um,
So like
just I'll just tell you my experience.
uh-huh.
My experience was I get them. I don't think there was anything at the time telling me that I needed yellow Pikmin to pick them up. So
Mhm.
I kind of like, oh, maybe this is me just knowing there's other colors. I'm like, oh, well, maybe the yellow Pikmin will pick them up. Because I didn't even know the fire ones were fire resistant until later on in the game. Because I'm like, these yellow ones are dying. Oh, wait, there's a red plant here. They might want me to use red
Mhm.
Pikmin. And then when like they run through the fire, like, oh my god, like it makes so much sense. The colors actually have meaning. But it makes no sense why the yellow Pikmin can pick things up because they're also the lightest Pikmin.
Yeah. So like you've got the visual cue of the ears saying they can jump higher.
Yeah.
But I think what I noticed on replaying the first level was that the first proper level outside the tutorial, basically they give you enough to do with a red Pikmin to exhaust all the things you can do with it, and then they kind of hope that you get the yellow Pikmin and walk about with them for a bit,
Mm-hmm.
so that one of them will pick up a bomb,
There's
and then
there's a lot of reliance on the restarting the save. I did that a lot, and about that tutorial level,
mhm,
I'm used to like when you go into the next level, it'll have the icon hovering over the next level. Pikmin
yeah,
did does not do that.
you not see the stars.
I was well. The thing is, like, I'm playing the game for the first time, pretty much,
Mhm,
and after I was live streaming the me playing the tutorial to you, I'd like
mhm.
saved and forgot about it, and then when I went back to it the next day, I spent like an hour and a half trying to figure out what the fuck
Okay.
to do in the tutorial level, not even knowing that it like opened up another level. And when I finally caught on to that, I felt really annoyed. And then I remembered that the last time I'm like, this has happened before. This is why I stopped playing the first time because I got stuck in this tutorial level, not realizing I unlocked another level and was able to move on. I did enjoy like coming back from work and be, oh, I'll play a little bit of Pikmin, and then I'd play it, and then I get annoyed after a little while trying to like find everything.
Yeah, so stick to the bombs a minute. I thought your issue with the
Yeah,
bombs were going to be how they tell you once in a screen how to pick them back up safely,
yeah,
and they say that if you whistle a yellow Pikmin that's holding a bomb back, it will drop it there. But you have to touch it if you want to pick it up without making it drop it and explode it.
that's the issue I was gonna get to. Thank
Because I
you.
think the only time it tells you again is if you accidentally massacre a bunch of them by basically whistling a bomb back. And I
I don't
think
know
that
why okay, you pick up the bomb, right?
mhm,
You pick it up. When the Pikmin picks it up, you can pick up that Pikmin and throw them.
yeah,
If you separate them, the only way you can move them, like you say, you can't whistle again because once you group them, you could whistle on them before and they wouldn't drop it.
mhm,
If you whistle on them after they've split up, they
Okay.
fucking drop the thing. So it becomes this thing of like, now I have to move these assholes individually. I have to pick them up and chuck
mhm.
them to get them anywhere. Because if I don't, they'll explode for some reason. And it's the most annoying thing. Like, the last level, the biggest fight I had was trying to get the yellow Pikmin not to kill the other Pikmin by accident. Because I went to whistle on some other ones, and they weren't enough range that
Yeah. So
they just drop it. Oh, God.
and that really comes to head in the final boss, which you can see what they expect you to do, which
Mm-hmm.
is so when it sticks its tongue out, they want you to throw a bomb so it eats the bomb and gets stunned.
Yeah,
But in practice, because there's no way of fine tuning these controls in this
yeah.
first game, it's just a cluster.
I think I had like two or three attempts at the final boss,
Yeah.
And I did what I did with most of the other enemy encounters, which was
Swarm it and hope for the best.
swarm it, throw a couple on its blind spot,
Mm-hmm.
and use some other ones as bait to
Is it
get it to try and
sneak up behind them and just mash the A button?
yeah,
Seemed to be the strategy for most things.
and then quickly whistle them away before they get stomped on.
Mm-hmm.
I think the most surprising boss fight was whatever the that was in the dark area. It
The
was
like,
like this steampunk spider that looked like it was from Wild Wild West.
yeah, I think that's what I was um telling you about when the was recommending it in the first place, was how moist those get too, and how spindlier the legs get. So they are just genuinely horrifying.
That was weird because it's like everything else in the Pikmin world. You feel like you're on like a shrunk.
Garden type thing.
Yeah, and then you see
But like,
this thing. It's like, what the hell is that?
it's like you can make sense of all the grub dogs. They're like bugs. Like most
Yeah,
things are just bugs. And then that shows up.
it's just like a bunch of ladybugs, and you get your little carrot
Mhm.
man. I think the thing that surprised me the most was Olimar has a family, which I never realized because obviously I mostly saw him in Smash.
Yeah, so like there is just quite a bleakness to his character
Yeah,
because he is just a Japanese salaryman that's been sent out to space. He's crash landed on this planet, and then he's just constantly worried he's not going to survive and get back home.
to his
And
family,
then
like specifically to his family, is like I wonder if my wife and it wasn't just a wife, it was my wife and kids. I'm like, oh my god, like he's got kids. This
yeah,
bulbous nosed weirdo
and
has
then almost
children.
yeah, like there was so much stuff when going back that I didn't realize was missing from the first one.
Yeah,
So this is more like just a benefit of the Wii U, but like in 3, you've actually got an entire folder of all these tutorial things. Because like as simple as it is, an RTS has a lot of rules that can easily get lost.
yeah, and it's a game that wants you to explore. Um,
Yeah.
but I was under the time constraint. I was
See,
actually under the exact same time constraint as Olimar. I had 30
a
days.
month, 30 days, yeah, just doing like guess you could do it one day a month in theory. But you said you were restarting a lot of days.
Yeah,
See, so I was wondering about that because I went back and played it. And part of it is knowing how to control it and what to do. But it would have been so much easier for you if you just killed everything because it stays dead until you leave. But then you wouldn't have known that you could take that risk because you wouldn't have known how long things would have been before they
I was
respawn.
trying to I was trying to optimize myself.
See
So
that?
there
Yeah,
was some days where I managed to get a few ship parts,
yeah,
but then I'd have a lot of casualties. So I'm like, oh, I actually need time to build up my army again.
yeah. So
So
there's
I
like,
have to get like 3 parts in order to have one day within the
uh,
time limit to
mhm.
get what I needed. Because I'm like, I'll be fine
Okay.
if I'm playing this and getting a bad ending.
Yeah. So like there was one point I felt like I should have restarted, and that was I lost a few days because I somehow managed to completely miss the blue onion, and then
That
I
is
started.
very easy to do because it blends right in with the water when you're not looking for it.
Yeah, so I built a little army of blue Pikmin, and they immediately got massacred the next day.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I know what to do. I will spend this day rebuilding the blue ones. So like I think I just defeated that weird boss you were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, oh, I don't have enough time in the day. What I'll do is I'll knock all these flowers away so the pellets are there the next morning. It turns out that if you leave the pellets there, but not the flowers, both vanish. So the flower needs an extra day to regrow, and the
Yeah.
pellets are nowhere to be seen. So I
Great.
was just like, oh, this was my one day to rebuild the army of blue Pikmin that I needed, and I've just fucking wasted it.
Yep. And keep in mind, I was like saving after the end of each day.
Yeah.
So it'd be like if it didn't go right, I'd have to like rethink my strategy and. But some of
Mhm.
them, like it got to a point where I was like, I was enjoying it. I had like some of the music stuck in my head. I can't remember it at all now, but
Yeah.
I remember
Like
it
I
being
think the music.
quite nice.
What did you think of the music in general? Just like nice for the game.
Nice for the game, yeah. I think
Yeah.
the actual, maybe it's I remember it more from Brawl, but
Hmm.
the little intro music where it's like doo-doo-doo-doo-doo.
Yeah.
Like with it, that gives it, that's like the perfect kind of thing to give you the vibe of what you're getting
Mhm.
with it. Like the little
Yeah.
kind of tribal music, but it's also
Hmm.
kind of like mysterious and lighthearted. But so I got more out of it than I thought I would because
Hmm.
it was like a Nintendo game. I thought it'd be a lot more lighthearted
Yeah.
than what the subtext is, because it's like, oh my god, like this poor
But I
man.
but I think that's like there's an undercurrent to like the best Nintendo games that is quite horrific.
Yeah,
Like Majora's Mask has that, obviously. This has that, and
yeah.
then
With Pikmin, it's you're a little man crash landed on a planet. He needs to collect his ship parts to go home. It's like, ah, yeah. There was
less the
no
horrible.
mention this man had a family. Who he's like, is what? Oh, my wife is probably missing me, and I used to take
Yeah,
my kids out here. It's like, oh my god, like that's horrible. This is
as if the
horrible.
as if the stakes weren't bad
Well,
enough.
that's what it. Well, the stakes were already like kind of standard, right? You land
Hmm.
on a planet. You got 30 days. That was just my understanding. You have 30 days. You had arbitrary reason. You have 30 days of oxygen left. It's like the stakes just climb higher and higher and higher. This poor man's never gonna see his family again if you don't get him off this fucking planet.
Hmm.
And it's like, oh my god. Yeah, once I got past the whole guilt of the Pikmin dying,
Yeah, and how quick did you get over that?
oh, it must have, honestly, it must have taken me halfway through the game before I thought, ah, screw it. Like, I'm
I
never
think
gonna get
yeah, when
anywhere if I try to. That's one of
I
the
think what
reasons why I kept resetting.
yeah, because it's just what have I done? I think once you get to your first big massacre that you feel like you can recover from, then maybe it gets a little easier.
It was
But
like
those
it was that thing of like how stupid they are. Like they're just
yes,
and how much you have to direct them, and it's like, okay, these things are like they would honestly trip and fall into one of these ladybug
yeah.
things'
So
mouths.
ladybugs I didn't have too much of a problem with, but it was for me. I think all the flaws really came to a head in the final boss fight and the
Mm-hmm.
level just before that. At the moments where you had to change blue Pikmin into yellow Pikmin or yellow
Yes.
Pikmin into blue Pikmin, and no matter where you put the cursor, they always seem to magically avoid the flower you were putting them into or the
Yeah.
ledge you were trying to throw them up at.
And if you put too many, then they'll end up like falling into a cliff somewhere, and you have to find a way of
Yeah, you
dragging them
just
out
hope
again.
for
It's
dear life that they actually cling on to the object you want
I
them
am
to.
I'm not gonna lie, it got to a point and I'm like I can't be bothered trying to find everything on my own. I ended up reading a guide because I was getting sick of the game near the
Yeah,
end.
like even as someone that played it before, I was getting so frustrated with certain bits of that level because it was not working, and I was starting to convince myself that I was doing something wrong.
Yeah.
That I was just like, I better just make sure. Same with like there was a little maze part off the side of one of those things where you had to like make sure they didn't fall down a hole.
Yes,
And it's
I
like, am I supposed
recall.
to take it? And I was like going, it felt like I was doing something wrong when I was throwing the yellow Pikmin up there because it felt like they shouldn't have been able to reach the thing. But that's what I was supposed to
Yes,
because it
that is
worked.
exact. Yeah, that's exactly. But it was just the angle. I know the exact one you're talking about. It's like on the very tippy top.
Yeah, but I
And,
think it's quite telling that that's a place we both struggled with. And then we've like talked about the
and like the
disaster
only
that's the
way
very
that you
bottom
can
one.
like get it is if you throw it the Pikmin directly on and give them a second to readjust themselves so that they're like standing
Yeah,
holding the object.
here's what I'd be interested to know: what you'd have added to make the experience a bit smoother.
A
Because I
better
reckon that
camera system.
yeah, I wonder how many problems that you could address are fixed in the sequel. Because I was so convinced of a lot of things that it just didn't exist in that first one that I was just shocked by. Or stuff where I was like, especially with the second one. So like the second one's big thing was that there's a second playable character.
Yeah.
As small as the levels were, I would have really appreciated that in this game.
Even so, it's not even you're wasting so much time moving about in this first game. That's why
Yeah,
it reset a lot, because it's like it just feels like even getting from point A to point B, you're wasting half a day.
yeah.
And unless you've like played the game to death and know the exact amount of Pikmin you need to clear the game in 7 days, and that it's like, I'm like,
Don't know
that's
how
way
anyone
too
can do
much
that.
effort.
Well, the last level left such a bad taste in my mouth that I was like, okay, let's go back to a happier time, like when I enjoyed this game.
I don't think I struggled that much with this second last, with the last boss. I honestly think it was maybe my third attempt, and I had like the first initial attempt was like, what the hell am I up against? The second
Hmm.
one was trying to figure it out, and by the end of the second one, I'm like, oh, I know exactly what I need to do. And then the only thing that pissed me off was like how much of a slog it was. Oh no, it was
Yeah,
more than 3 attempts. It was because like it's when I got to that second phase that I'm like, oh, the game's just decided it wants to cheat now, because now he's just like going
yeah. It felt
ape.
like thing was felt like when it started jumping, no matter what I did, it would like track me to the exact moment where it could squish as many things as possible.
Yeah.
I was just like, well, this.
Do,
And then
do,
what I
do you
wish
know
I
what I did? I took 100 Pikmin out, and I took
uh,
50 with me to do the first phase. And if I lost any in the second phase, I'd take more out of my
yeah.
stockpile on the edge.
See, I think pride got the better of me in some ways because I was wanting to like cut down the number of days I was finishing it in. So what I
Yeah.
should have done was like clear out the level,
Yep.
end the day,
Yep.
and then start the boss fight in the next day.
That's what I
Instead,
did.
instead, what I decided to do was going, well, I reckon I can get my day count to this. So anytime I did, I think this was the only time I was resetting it, is that I'd have to clear out that entire level again, give me half a day to actually fight the boss.
Yeah.
And I tell you, I have never been so stressed out as to when the 10-second timer was going and they were almost there with the ship part.
Oh god.
I was just worried, it's like, oh no, what if everybody dies and I've got nobody left to actually repair the ship?
Oh jeez.
But yeah, I think the time limit sort of stops you experimenting as well.
It's
Because, like,
so small. It's such a small window, and that's why I ended up
yeah,
resetting a lot, because it was like you end up having to like optimize your route so much.
hmm.
I've got my entire playthrough recorded, but
Oh wow.
I think I spent 12 or 13 hours in total. It would be closer to maybe 11 or 12 if you discount the amount of times I kind of like paused and was looking up stuff, or taking a break, or texting or something like that. Because it's like you gotta pause the game. You can't
Yeah.
have it unpause, or else you're wasting it. There was something that was I had like something in my mind. It was like when I was playing it, and the veneer was starting to rub off a bit, and I was
Mhm.
starting to get annoyed with the game. I'm like, I'm feeling like it's like trying to direct a bunch of insolent toddlers. They're just like, I'm like, I didn't
Okay.
can throw you there. And this didn't happen the day before. You just decided that you were gonna fall down there and die. Or like you're trying to get them to follow you, and they're like getting in fights with things. It's like, no, you leave that alone. So you're ending up like spamming the whistle button so much.
Yeah. So, like, the swarm mechanic that the C stick does.
Yeah.
When it came to Pikmin 3, I really missed that. But having gone back and played the first one, where it felt like it was main use was to get across tiny ledges that were specifically designed to irritate you as much as possible,
Yeah.
I had a newfound appreciation for the lock-on system they just replaced it with in
Yeah.
3, where it was like, focus on this enemy, bang.
Well,
Because it's
to
the
me,
same
like the
thing,
swarm mechanic just didn't make any
any
sense.
sense.
Like
Yeah.
in terms of like how it's actually used,
Hmm.
and it did feel like, why does this need to be like a directional function?
Because you'd rather have the camera there.
Yeah, and like I saw when I was watching a video of like where some of these parts were, because like honestly, between work and trying to play this, I'm like, I don't want to waste the rest of my evening to try
Yeah.
like restarting this level in Pikmin. Um, they had the camera so zoomed in,
Yeah.
and I
And
played like
even,
the entire game almost entirely zoomed out, because I'm like, I need to see
yeah.
what I'm doing and where I'm going.
Yeah, I don't know. what function that would have served, because there was no fine details that you really needed to stare at.
Yeah, because it's like 99% of the things that you're looking for high up on a ledge. Like it's ugh, such a pain.
So overall thoughts then?
Overall thoughts, I played an hour of Pikmin 2
Mhm.
and I'm like,
This is what it should have been.
this is what it should be. And then like when I was playing Pikmin 2, I realized like it's not one that I remember seeing a lot or people talking about or
Mhm.
things being made reference to. It's two, because
Yeah,
like you're picking up garbage in the second game to sell, and I remember that because they really play up the fact that you're in a tiny world or like you're
yeah,
tiny inside of a bigger world in the second game. And I
mhm.
was surprised they have like a is it Duracell?
Yeah.
They've
They
got
have like proper brand things in there, I think.
so is that carry on to Pikmin 3 or did they
So,
stop that? I guess I
and
have to
then
see if I ever get to because like if you didn't have the time mechanic in the original Pikmin,
mhm.
the way it plays, I don't think it'd be just a slog.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a game because like you'd be just taking everything slow so you
Yeah,
could build up a massive army. It's like the time limit needs to be there so you make mistakes
yeah.
or you feel your losses.
And I'm surprised they only caught on about the speedrunning aspect from people speedrunning 1 and 2 because like the first one feels very much geared towards speedrunning with the amount of times you can
Yeah,
like just willing okay, like the day's quick anyway, I'll reload a save and
I,
try
d-
again.
I was wondering that because like of all the launch titles though, you've got like Luigi's Mansion, Wave Race. I think might be the launch title in the GameCube,
Mhm.
and Pikmin is round about that launch window. But all of those things take like 3 or 4 hours to finish. And
I,
that was like their major criticism for those things
I
back in the day.
don't know about Wave Race, but I was getting Luigi's Mansion vibes with
Yeah,
Pikmin because there's that whole aspect of like working towards a greater goal. So like
yeah.
with Luigi's Mansion, you're trying to get replay the game to get a better mansion.
Mhm. Whereas
Um,
this one is just like, well, you can replay it to get a better time. I think it records like your save file at the end. It's interesting that the only bonus stuff there is like how many Pikmin can you grow in a day? Because in the
or
other
how
two,
many
you've got
Pikmin
like,
you've killed in total. It was
yeah.
very quick to tell me that.
Whereas the other two have got like battle modes for 2 player
Yeah.
and co-op mode and like little challenge things. And two moves away from the speedrunning because in addition to your treasure, you've also got like massive dungeons that you're going through. You come in with a fixed number of Pikmin and you survive for as long as possible in there. And those are like properly structured things.
So
So rather than uh, clear a path, there'll be like battle challenges and other stuff to work out.
so
But there's no time.
with
Sorry.
Pikmin 2, is there like a normal campaign mode that's co-op?
There's an entirely separate 30 mission co-op campaign specifically designed for co-op.
Right, because I'm like, I definitely want to try that.
Yeah,
I'd be ready. I'm perfectly happy with playing the game at some point.
I think you need to go through a bit of Pikmin 2 to unlock the co-op. I'd definitely be up for trying that with you because, like, I think that has a much tighter focus, and there's also like a goal within that of like trying to get through them perfectly without losing any of your Pikmin.
Mm-hmm.
From what I remember, like you come in with a fixed thing, or you can build a certain number. You might have a time limit sometimes, but you might need to get through certain levels of a cave dungeon thing.
Yeah.
I think that was what's interesting. Like they've got the time limit still to an extent in two, but
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't really come into play because the minute you're in an underground cave, the time limit vanishes. But your pressure there isn't coming from how much time you're losing. It's going to be from how many resources you're using up.
Yeah. Like I was saying earlier on, when like Pikmin 2 opened with an actual opening cutscene, I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah,
Like this feels
they've
like it's an actual video game now with a plot and every and it was so like I'm not joking. This is like the moment I finished the first game, the following morning before I had to go to work, I'm like, I'll pop on the second game quickly and see what it's like. And I felt it. I felt how Olimar must have felt when it was like, I've literally just finished the first game, right on to the second game. He's just home. There's not like a 3-year waiting for the game to be developed.
No.
And the game just like, it caught me by surprise. He lands and he's basically told, like, where have you been since you've been gone? Louis up and the company's going out of business unless you fix it.
Yeah,
So you
it's
got to
like
jump in a ship with him and go back out. And it's just like, oh.
like all of that stuff. Getting the flavor text as well, a lot of it. So I'm pretty sure you've got Oliver's musings about how his life is,
Mm-hmm.
alongside like these aliens attempt to decipher what it is they're actually picking up.
Yeah.
And it kind of like it goes into 3 where they don't have the words for the fruit they're picking up.
Yeah.
So it's just like juicy beach ball or something for a watermelon. As they're just trying to work out what these things are in there because they've got no context for them.
See, like I think I'll enjoy the second one more because I wanted more of that in the first Pikmin, and it's such a lonely feeling experience. I guess that's apt, but like, it's like you're just stuck with all these like stupid toddler aliens that like are perfectly willing to sacrifice themselves for somebody they don't even know.
Yeah.
Um.
Oh, yeah, like a plum in Pikmin 3 is called a lesser mock bottom. So, yeah. It's just bizarre
is a
stuff
peach
like
a mock bottom then?
yeah, a peach is a mock bottom, and a plum's a lesser mock bottom. But yeah, so like the sort of stuff like that comes through a bit more. And then yeah, it just that first game feels so unfinished going back to it.
It
Like
really does, and like
it feels like quarter to half a game, and then it just decides to end when it wants to end. It's
it's
like
not even like Luigi's Mansion was a launch title for the game, and it feels like a game. It feels like it has a beginning, a middle, and end. And like
yeah, this just
Pikmin just feels like
stopped.
it stops. Yeah,
It's like here's the final boss. Okay.
that doesn't even feel like a final boss. It's weird. There's like the stakes just feel no different to like any of the other bosses in the game.
Mm.
I felt like the most annoying one was that the bird bosses.
Yeah, the 3 of them. The one will just you get halfway through it, another one shows up, and then oh, what's this? A third one?
It's, at that point, it's all about like zoning it so you can like
Mm-hmm.
fight them one at a time before they show up. But I think graphically, because when I was playing Pikmin 2, it's very similar to Pikmin 1 in that it looks very unpolished.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like visually I'll enjoy Pikmin 3 whenever I get
Yeah.
to that. But no, like and this is what I've liked actually about not doing the trilogy back to back in 1 month
Mm-hmm.
is even like just talking about it with you right now, it's like rekindled my excitement for the second game. Whereas
Yeah.
I would never have initially had that had I never played the first game. Um,
Yeah. Needs
so
some distance.
although it might not come to an episode, like I definitely think I would go and play the second game of my own volition now, or
Well, that's good to
finish
hear.
it.
Because I do think like it's a shame that like very few of the unique ideas that Nintendo make these days get anywhere,
Yeah.
or at least go into one game that might have been hidden in the eShop.
Mm-hmm. It was to justify the 123 Mario thing. That
28.
128. That does
Yeah,
you
you're
can only
you're
have like
five.
100 Pikmin at a time. It was a
Yeah,
bit
you're 5 Mario short, me.
like... So I'll wrap up Pikmin. I thought
Yeah.
overall, I thought it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wouldn't go back and play it ever again. The graphics, even for the time, they look unpolished.
Yeah.
The sound was the music at the time was catchy and nice and chill. It had me like looking forward to play the game, but then when I would actually play the game for more than an hour, I'd start to get annoyed. And I think the time constraint's a necessary evil, but
Mhm.
if you like couple that with the fact that there's an actual overarching time limit of the 30 days, then it's just like that lingering over your head where it feels like every decision you make needs to be a good one, or else this poor man's never gonna make it to his family. Um,
Yeah, as if you weren't guilted enough by the deaths of all your newfound plant buddies
yeah,
screaming. Now you've also got a wife and child to worry about. It's
yeah,
it's like there's a reason why it resonated so much with Japanese salarymen.
yes,
Which just goes to show systemic change in the country was needed
but
even back as
it still is.
2001.
It's funny how a game from 2001 can ring so true, like 21 years
Yeah.
later.
Yeah, there was like a whole bonus ending where he had to like travel back to the company and hang out with his work buddies drinking
What did you
so
have
he
to
doesn't
do
get
to get
ostracized
that?
from the rest of the company. Oh, I'm lying.
Oh, right, you were joking.
Yeah.
Oh man,
But
that's what I
but the
mean.
fact that you believe it,
I
yeah.
totally believe because it works within the context of what I know
It's
from living in Japan. But if I had to give Pikmin a number rating, I think I would give it a solid 7 out of 10.
that's not bad. That's more than I'd have expected.
So it wasn't a terrible game, but it just wasn't enough
It's just not
there.
yeah, it's just not finished.
Yeah. And what would you give
Yeah.
Donkey Kong Country out of Curiosity out of 10?
8 out of 10, I'd say.
8 out of 10.
I think
Yeah.
because I think I know where the series can go,
Yeah.
and like having played even just like the first few levels of Donkey Kong Country 2, it's like, oh, this is such a massive step up,
Yeah.
and like there's nothing really like if aside from some pacing issues, there's nothing I disliked about the first game,
Mhm.
and I think it works incredibly well as like a whole package and as like a even quite an amazing tech showcase.
Yeah. And like with Pikmin, but yeah, I'm looking forward to the prospect of going through the second game. But yeah, solid 7. And
Yeah.
I think it's. Do you have anything you disagree with? I honestly I can't find anything I disagree with what you said about Donkey Kong Country.
No, I was I was surprised by how. Oh, this was one question I did have. How long did it take you to find the map
The map
in Pikmin?
in the original Pikmin,
Yeah,
there's a map.
yeah. So, um, I did wonder this
I was
once.
looking up maps online and I couldn't
So,
use them because
so,
like they didn't make any sense.
so on the first proper level, in the
Yeah,
second or this one of the second or third items you pick up is called the something or other radar,
yeah,
and Y button, which had previously just shown you how many Pikmin you had, changes to also show a map where all the ship parts are.
you're having a laugh.
No, I'm not joking. So the ship parts are there as stars, and you can also see like any Pikmin you lost along the way.
Oh my god. And you can just activate this map whenever you want?
Yeah, once you've got the item that gives you a map. So by the time you've moved on to the third area where you get the blue Pikmin, you should have the map
Oh
because
my
you can't
god.
fly off the second stage
Oh my
without having
god.
collected enough parts.
Mike, I played the entire game without knowing that.
God, no wonder you were struggling.
Oh my, if I had known that, maybe. Well, there you go. That clearly what there's gonna be footage here if I can be bothered of it, like showing me to press that button. But like, I'm getting to be an old man that's like disinterested in reading video game text. I consider it a win that I even read like any of the stuff about Olimar's family.
Yeah, it's like,
Um,
well, we both missed something. I missed a completely useless ground pound attack,
and I
and you
missed
missed
like a
an entire
game
important.
changing
Okay.
mechanic. Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah, it just stuck out in my mind because I was like, oh, should I tell him or no, we're going into this like relatively blind to
Oh
just
my
feeling
god.
through things.
Oh my god. I was so lost. My god. I was so lost. For days.
Yeah, but
I
this
didn't
is a
know the
case of,
parts that we were getting actually served some kind of function.
well, that's the thing. Only that one does.
You
I think I think a few of them might like add to your shield, but that's about it. You mentioned someone had done it in like 7 days,
Yeah.
like in-game days. Um, so I tried working out how long that would take, and you must have to have that game down to like insane memorization
Yeah.
because I couldn't even finish the first chunk of that first proper level in the time allotted
Mhm.
because you'd have to collect all the ship parts, build an army of yellow Pikmin, and then leave on that same day. And there's just not enough time. It felt like.
It is a very GameCube game. I'll say
Mhm.
that about Pikmin. I couldn't imagine this on any other console. I suppose it's time to get on to recommendations. There's a game that when I got the PS5 and saw something on the store, I'm like, oh shit, I forgot about that.
What was that?
Mike might recommend the game to me, and I don't want to say it because I really don't want to play it.
Great,
But
now I'm gonna have to go through everything.
I might be forced. You
Uh,
know the game deep down. I think it's the
oh,
game that can inspired the series in the first
okay.
place.
No, we can work up to that. So it's like, what's the most infuriating, dull thing that I can send you through
I'm
in
glad
order
you
to
know
work?
exactly what you're thinking.
Yeah. Um. Oh, I've got one actually.
Okay.
You were talking about Mario stuff earlier and not
Oh
liking
god.
the feel. So it's not Mario, but
Okay.
this is one I think you might like because I'm not sure if you've played it before. If you played Celeste,
I've heard of Celeste.
so Celeste is a really good indie pixel art platformer
Mm-hmm.
that is like a better Mario than all Marios in some way,
Okay.
like a better Meat Boy than Meat Boy. And I feel like it's approachable but also as difficult as you want it to be. So like there's a lot of incredibly hardcore challenges you can do that are optional. But as
Mm-hmm.
far as the actual base game's concerned, it's a nice, manageable challenge that feels amazing to play.
Okay.
But that's something you can like dip in and out of because I would say that you know how like Meat Boy's kind of screen based
Yeah,
in a
yeah.
way. If you can imagine that in like a bigger sprawling level, it's like each world will introduce a new mechanic that gets dealt with for that world, like
Okay.
wind or gliding. And I think it's just a amazingly put together platformer, and it's on pretty much everything.
Okay. So it's platformers you're after, is it?
Not necessarily. I was just like, a platformer. I'll give him something platformy, but I think you'll enjoy that one. It's just like a fun challenge.
um trying to think. Oh my god. If you played Maximo.
What's Maximo?
Oh my god, we found one. Maximo was like a Ghost and Goblin spin-off on
Oh,
PS2. And I own
okay.
it so I can give you a lend of it.
Oh, thank God. Like PlayStation 2 um emulation is all over the place for
Yeah.
this machine.
So that's the month of September's games. Got Celeste and Maximo. I will say this much.
Hmm.
I have seen Celeste before. I've seen what it looks like, and I hate how it looks like
See, I was wondering that
graphically.
because the
Um,
pixel style.
it's the type of pixel style that it is, but I might end up liking the game, so I'm gonna give it.
Like I think the core of the game's good, but I know art style is kind of a hard thing to get over if you don't like it.
Yeah, I'll give it. That's the whole point in this series is to try something
To look beyond something,
to
like
look beyond
trying.
and see. So what did you guys watching think? You don't have to listen to us two idiots ramble. What did you think? You can join us if you like. When we announce what games we're challenging each other to play at the end of each month, you can play along too. And give us your thoughts on the games that you're playing. You don't have to agree with us. That's not the point of this. It's just getting a new experience and shooting shit about games. So thank you. Thanks to
Yeah.
everybody for watching.
Hmm.
From me and from you, Michael.
Yes, thank you.
And we'll catch you next time.
See ya.
Well, that's because 99% of the time your part's up on a ledge somewhere.
Yeah. So you need to see as much of the stage as possible. Especially
I'm gonna repeat that because my voice cracked and somebody's gonna mention that.